Okay, so today is Sunday, 8th of February 2026, 11 a.m, about 20 degrees centigrade, 68 Fahrenheit, still dry and presently mild weather, but not too much sunshine. Now, in the introduction to this series of the basics, I said I'm going to talk about my up-to-date methodology for keeping Medaka outdoors. But on second thoughts, maybe I ought to first mention how I first started with Medaka, which was very basic and very simple with only a few fish. And I'll admit it wasn't because I had some sort of instant attraction to the idea of keeping and breeding Medaka, but in fact I'd converted a couple of my ceramic earthenware pots like this from having horticultural plants in, like hibiscus, and I made them watertight with epoxy putty so I could grow miniature water lilies. I don't have the water lilies anymore. I put them in the pond, but the lilies were growing quite well. The only problem was controlling mosquitoes, and I used to put a few guppies or platies in the tubs just for that purpose. Now, these fish were okay outdoors for most of the year, even during the very hot summer. But they tended to suffer from disease or die off in the 2 winter months of the year when the water was cold. And in the end, after searching online for small fish that might survive such a wide temperature range, just by chance I discovered Medaka. And there's a few in here. Maybe you can see water's got a bit green in the recent sunshine we had. So I managed to obtain a small mixed group, and they survived okay in the water lily tubs outdoors throughout the whole of the year. No aeration, no filtration, and only occasional partial water changes if I thought it hadn't rained for a week or so. And it's going well, but it's difficult to check how many fish there might be in a water lily tub. But I thought probably the numbers were decreasing. So I started watching Japanese YouTube videos about Medaka and thought I'd try breeding some. And what I'll talk about is, if you like, my very basic method of the basics for breeding Medaka outdoors. So in the spring, I waited until temperatures were about 20 degrees centigrade and got about a 12-hour day length, and found a location where there's a bit of sun in the morning, such as just this location here, and set up a breeding bucket. And this is my old original 20 litre, which is 5 US gallons bucket with dechlorinated tap water and a simple breeding mop made out of the pot scourer pads, and I put in a breeding trio of 1 male and 2 females, just like this, and I fed them twice a day if I had the time. Now, I think, often in Japan they use 10 litre buckets like this instead of this 20 litre bucket. They get them in 100 yen stores, very cheap. But as you can see, in terms of space, they take up almost the same amount of room as a 20-litre bucket. So I always think it's better to use the larger bucket. They have more, larger quality, larger volume of water, which means you get better water quality. Now, so every week I do roughly a 20-25% water change using siphon like that. I've got some water up here which is already same temperature, just leave it outdoors next to this one stuff. So that would be the fresh new water I put in. So I just siphon out 20-25% and then siphon in new water from there. Okay, maybe I didn't do that very well, but never mind. Anyway, that's what it looks like. Now, if it's about 20 degrees centigrade water temperature, the fry will probably hit hatch after about 2 weeks. And I didn't want the parent fish to eat the fry, so at the end of about 2 weeks I look and see how many eggs there are. I think there's about 2 on here from this lot, but if I got enough eggs, then I just move the parent fish back into where they came from, into the water lily tub, and leave the mop in there in that water to for the eggs to hatch and the fry to grow out. I mean, with this quantity of water, 20 litres, you can allow quite a lot of fry to grow out till they get a reasonable size. Maybe get to about 1 centimetre long, maybe 3/8 of an inch, and then the fry are big enough to put back into the water lily tub with the parents. So that is the way I'd normally do it. Undoubtedly, if I left all the fry in the bucket, the earlier hatching ones might start to eat the smaller ones. So just to give all the fry a reasonable chance of surviving, I'd throw a handful of underwater plants in there, just to give some hiding places. Now, okay, say some of the smaller, later hatching fry, weaker fry might get eaten, but not trying to save every possible fry that I can. If they're going to survive outdoors with all the varying weather conditions, then you only want really the toughest fry to survive. Now, if the end of the 2 weeks, I thought I hadn't got enough eggs on there, I wanted to get more eggs if I can, I'd put there into a bucket of water like this, new bucket of water with the plants, and then I just put in another spawning mop to collect another 2 weeks worth of eggs, and then hatch them out in this bucket. So, I mean, that's a very, very basic way of breeding Medaka, by using a few buckets. It's the way I started, and you could, for example, easily adapt it if you want to obtain eggs from Medaka you've got in a community tank indoors where the eggs are getting eaten, or you find eggs are getting laid on plants and you can't find them. Take out a breeding group of 3, breeding trio of 3, a couple of buckets, and there you go. It's quite easy. So the basic requirements are about 12 hours at least of daylight, about 20 degrees centigrade temperature or more, a few buckets, and if you can, an hour or so of sunshine, because a bit of sunshine seems to stimulate the spawning process sometimes. Not essential, but I think it helps. So I'll explain my up-to-date breeding method in another later video. What I do maybe looks a bit more complicated, but it's just really doing things on a larger scale. The basic principles of what I've shown here are what I use anyway. And as I say, if you've got 12 hours of daylight, about 20 degrees centigrade, a few buckets, it should be easy to get a reasonable number of eggs to replace adults as they get older or whatever. Okay,